The WSL season is over. Following Matchweek 22, we're here to review all the action from a chaotic final game week. We analyse how Chelsea went invincible and set a record points tally with victory over Liverpool, and discuss what on earth happened in Arsenal versus Manchester United. This is our Matchweek 22 WSL review. Alright, let's get into it then. The WSL season is over at long last. No, I'm joking. It's been a fantastic campaign, Harry, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a really, really good season. Thoroughly enjoyed it. 22 match weeks of brilliant action. I think that this match week was the perfect one to end it all. We had everything that we could have possibly wanted from 6 fixtures, and it was a really nice way to bow out the season.
Yeah, I think most games were quite symbolic of the club's seasons. I think we saw utter chaos from some teams. We saw Chelsea just about scrape by a win when they perhaps weren't playing their best, and we saw Tottenham draw. So, you know, we saw a bit of everyone in these games. We're going to talk about all of them. It's more of a celebration of the season in today's video, and in the next few days we talk about the WSL season, breaking down some teams' campaigns and all that sort of stuff. But let's get into our match week review today. We're going to start with Arsenal 4, Manchester United 3. The most interesting game probably of the weekend, Harry. You were live for it, so I'll let you handle most of this. What were your thoughts?
It was a good game. I think that it was a competitive game for the majority of the match, but I do think that the scoreline does favour Man United heavily. There was a point in that second half where Arsenal were outplaying them. They'd just gone 4-1 up, and United looked dead and buried. And then Katie McKay decided to have a bit of fun and make the game interesting by setting up Turland for one of United's goals and giving away a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, 11 goals. No, sorry, 3 minutes. 3 goals in 11 minutes. Not the other way around. 11 goals in 3 minutes would have been even more impressive. But 3 goals in 11 minutes, still very impressive. Complete capitulation, really, for Manchester United. From what it looked like, United obviously trying a new system in this game. They did change that around the second half, which worked even less well. Problems there for United. If there isn't a Jade Riviere fit for the final on Sunday, what do they do?
Well, you'll have Mannion back, which will be... Yes, she has had
Her point still stands.
Yeah, but yes, she had some tough games, but she's still a right back. They won't have to change the system. But in this game, they just got it horribly wrong. They tried to play a back three in the first half with Sandberg at left wing back and Bize at right wing back. It just didn't work. Sandberg was too high. Janssen didn't cover across enough, and Bize just was practically playing right wing, and it left the back three very isolated and a lot of work to do. In the second half, they went back to the back four, but rather than the bit I didn't understand was why Letitia went to right back, Janssen and Turner were your centre halves, and then you kept the rest of the team as it was. I would have done what they did at the start of the season and dropped Bize into right back, kept Letitia in the back two, pushed Janssen into midfield and put one of Clinton or two now out wide, which I know isn't favourable, but it's better than watching Letitia at right back. I think Letitia is a phenomenal defender, but she really struggled. She really struggled against Caitlin Ford. She didn't track the run of Marnham for Marnham's goal and just got Marnham got the wrong side of her, and from that point on, Letitia couldn't do anything about Marnham slotting it past Tudis Joyce. Skinner got it wrong across both halves, and I think that is something that we haven't been able to say at all this season.
No.
But this was the first match week out of all the 22 that Mark Skinner got it wrong. And I feel for him a little bit because it was a force. He was kind of forced to change the system, and it didn't play, and it didn't work because Riviere injured, Mannion suspended, really cost them. He tried to come up with something different, it didn't work, and I'm sure he'll reflect on that and he'll take that on. But overall for United, it means they finished third. They were disappointed to not finish runners up because I do think they were the second best side of the league this season, but this game didn't demonstrate that.
No, I think for United, definitely got it wrong tactically. I think that one falls on Skinner, but trying to implement a system that they've had a week on to work on in training, it's never really going to work. That would have been a very tough ask on the players. If they'd pulled it off, he looks like a genius. They didn't. I mean, 4-3 is still not a terrible result against an Arsenal side who've looked really strong this season. I think the more concerning thing for me, because United are playing a different system here, they haven't got their full strength side, so they've got those mitigating circumstances. But for Arsenal, this was their full strength side. This was their usual system, and they still shipped 3 goals. It's been way too leaky at the back recently for Arsenal, and my fear is their next game's against Barcelona. They've conceded 12 in their last 3 matches. Chelsea have only conceded 13 this season in total, just to put that into perspective. But they're going into a game against a Barcelona side who love scoring goals, who love capitalising on mistakes, who have won Champions League finals 5-0 in the past. That's got to be a major concern at the moment that Arsenal look so leaky.
Yeah, but first of all, for Arsenal, I think they did play well in attacking areas. They looked really strong, and once they got the ball there,
that's never been a doubt this season.
Yeah, no, and they did play well. I thought Chloe Kelly was absolutely brilliant, and it was another demonstration as to why Arsenal should be looking at bringing her in on a permanent. I thought she played very, very well and did well for the first goal, and it was a really good ball in for the second. But as you say, another 3 goals conceded, and yes, they were comfortable in the game, and it was 2 errors from McCabe that led to them conceding 3 in the end. But and Peter will say, "Oh, that won't happen because that was just 2 errors from McCabe." But what if those errors happen in the Champions League final? Suddenly, Barcelona are 2-0 up already, and you're looking at Barcelona. They just smashed Betis 9-0. They've just won the league. They are looking to go into that Champions League final, and they will believe that they can take Arsenal to the cleaners, and that is a big problem for the Gunners. They have to look stronger defensively. Again, it was just a really poor defending the corner. Again, it was just so. It was bizarre. I've never seen this. I don't understand what they were defending. It was a header that was scuffed, and it eventually came off Letizia and fell to Toon, who is in acres of space in the 6-yard box to knock it past Zinsberger. And it was one of those that I just didn't understand how that went in. I didn't understand how Toon was so alone. I think the other thing for Arsenal that will be worrying is, as you say, in the other couple games against Brighton and Villa, you could say, well, potentially Van Domselaar would have saved a few of those. In this game, though, Zinsberger actually prevented them from conceding more. Yeah. Her save from Clinton in the first half was absolutely top draw. Brilliant stop to get to the top left and tip it over the bar. That was a great save, and I don't think she could have done too much more about the goals. But Arsenal got to look stronger defensively. But it was a cracking game to end the season for 2 sides that were playing it out for second place in a straight shootout. 7-goal thriller from a neutral point of view was a brilliant watch.
Yeah, both sides took their big chances. They also scored other goals on top of that, penalties at both ends. Not really much more you could ask for from the last game of the season. So that was a very enjoyable watch. And let's move on then to Aston Villa 3, Brighton 1. A really nice way for Aston Villa to end the season. Fantastic run of form at the end of this campaign then. 5 consecutive victories for Arroyo's Villains. Is this a sign of things to come next season?
Yeah, it's massively positive for Aston Villa. When Arroyo first came in, they showed signs of promise, but they didn't get the results, and it felt like a little bit like it was under the Poor, where they started well but weren't getting the points in it, and they were threatened to be going down. They lost to Crystal Palace, and they looked to be in big trouble. But again, patience. It was a good. Arroyo is a good manager. They got a good squad. The fans were patient, board were patient, and Arroyo has seen out a brilliant end to the campaign, and it just shows what Aston Villa could do next season with Arroyo in charge, with the players they've got, and with a little bit of investment. Yeah. It was the same names again that were performing. Salmon was brilliant. Chastity Grant, another superb performance. I thought Maz Pacheco, credit to her, bowing out her Villa career in style with a well taken goal, and probably could have had 1 or 2 more in there. All round from Aston Villa, it was absolutely brilliant. I thought with the ball, they looked superb. They did get away with it a couple times defensively, but sometimes in football, that's what you need to win a football game, and that's what they got. But with the ball in attacking areas, Villa looks so dangerous right now. I just think defensively, maybe they did get let off the hook a little bit.
They're finally allowing their attackers, 1, to play, but 2, to have the freedom. Yeah. I think we saw under the last manager, whose name escapes me now, Robert Duport. I thought we saw a bit too much rigidity, a bit too much structure, and it didn't really allow these creative, fluid attackers to play in a style which benefited them. It made the game really slow and difficult and laborious for them. But now they're playing this free-flowing attacking football. We're seeing positional rotations. We're seeing an overload with Aston Villa counter-attacking. So we're seeing some really nice combinations between these players. And Chastity Grant, one of those who's benefited massively from it. Ebony Salmon, hugely important in this system. Really good at making those runs off the shoulder of the defender. Really strong from her recently. And I think the big positive takeaway from this game is that they didn't play Jordan Nobbs. So they started with that Missy Kearns and Jill Beijing's pivot. And those two worked really well together. I think it's really important they get Jill Byjings for next season.
Yeah, she's been a brilliant player. She's had a brilliant campaign. If they can get her in on a permanent, that's a superb pickup. I do agree. I do think that obviously they will address it. They will probably bring in a more defensively minded midfielder. I think that with Kearns playing higher up has looked better. I thought, she did all right and they did play well, but
She'll probably move into that Rachel Daly role.
Again, Daly was brilliant. The second goal was a brilliant. The timing of the run was great. Again, massive questions of Brighton. How is Rachel Daly alone on the edge of the 6-yard box for Chastity Grant to cut it back to her? But when you leave one of the best poachers in the league alone in the 6-yard box, she was always going to score. And I think again there were questions of Brighton defensively in this game. Difference is Villa took their chances and Brighton didn't, because Brighton had them. But their only goal came for a D'Angelo error where she probably should have saved it and ended up taking the ball over her own line. But I mean, there was that weird moment where Seike hit one post, it fell to Kirby, who then went and hit the other post. And
this didn't happen for Brighton.
Exactly. Villa were clinical, Brighton weren't, and both sides weren't brilliant defensively. So there were positives and negatives for both sides, but Villa take the 3 points and it caps off a really good end to the season.
Yeah, clinicality is the way to summarise it, because it was 50-50 on possession, 13-12 in favour of Villa on shots, 5-4 shots on target. Brighton had double their big chances, but they missed all of them, and Villa took one. So
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just one of those games. Football's a funny game sometimes. What was quite an even game was made to look a bit more of a disparaging one. Looking at this Villa team though, Pacheco leaving, I think Nobb's leaving as well. Rachel Daly isn't on a new contract yet, but hasn't been announced to be leaving. Feels like a real period of change for Aston Villa. Long time coming, but it's good to see.
Yeah, I think it's what they needed. It is harsh because obviously there's sentimental value with all of those players who have been at Villa and have played for Villa for a few years now, but I think what it shows is that Arroyo and Aston Villa are trying to use this form, they see the potential that Villa have. You look at the young players they've bought in this season, they've been absolutely brilliant. It's a bit of a changing of the guard and getting rid of those more sentimentally experienced players to bring in higher quality, up-and-coming, high-potential stars. It could massively catapult them because they've got the coach now to go and climb the league. They've got certain players. If they can bring in more talent and they can bring in better players in the summer, then they could see themselves really challenging the kind of Brighton area. If they can try and match that Brighton standard, because again, I think Brighton are a side who will look to build on this season, and I think there's proof this season that they need to reinforce going into next year, and they need to reassess defensively. I think these are two sides that if they improve defensively could cause a lot of problems for the best sides in the league.
Well, it's a result for Aston Villa that puts them sixth.
Wow.
Which is stupid because they were in a relegation fight 5 games ago. Suddenly, they now look one of the top sides in the league. It's testament to how close that midfield battle has been the WSL this season. But you're exactly right in the sense that 5th place is anyone's next season. Anyone between 5th and 11th could come through and take it. There's 8 points separating Brighton in 5th and Tottenham Hotspur in 11th, who we'll get to later. What a disaster this season has been there, though. But yeah, what an incredibly tight midfield battle. I mean, the final game week benefited Villa massively. Yeah. They beat Brighton, which was key. They saw a lot of the sides around them lose or draw. So, yeah, but testament to them, a really strong run at the end of this season, and they finished 6th. And it just shows that when it's such a short format like the WSL, where it's only 22 matches, if you put a run of form together, you can see yourself get some hugely beneficial results.
Yeah.
And that reflects hugely in the table. So, really positive end to the season for Aston Villa. And it's gone from a season where they had an absolute disaster to looking really strong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is why it was impossible to analyse. A week ago, I just put them down as the biggest underachievers. Now they're right where they should be. So, yeah, it's difficult. But they've done really well at the end of the season. I think that's definitely something they can take away from this campaign. Brighton end up 5th. The second half of the season hasn't gone to plan at all, and that's something they'll have to review over the summer. But definitely still a positive season for Brighton. Huge upgrade on what they had last campaign.
There's still potential. There's still promise there for Brighton. Even when they haven't been playing well, they've still proven that. In this game, they created loads of chances, didn't take them. They were brilliant against Arsenal. And there's been other games where they've played well but not got the result. I think that's what they need to look at. If they want to become a top side, they've got to do what the big sides do and get results even when they're not playing well. Because at the moment, they either win brilliantly or they lose terribly. They have to show up defensively. Because again, it's that thing where when they're not winning, they're losing. It's not that where they're
bit
either
too
winning.
Tottenham for my liking.
Exactly. Then there's never where they get a draw, but they probably should have won. If they don't win, they've lost the game pretty badly. So they really need to check up defensively next season. If they do strengthen in that back line and do get better on the ball, then I think they're going to be a very difficult side to beat for everyone in the league. I really do.
Definitely. I mean, if we see the same level of investment that we saw last summer, the same attention to transfers, I definitely think they'll be in a good position. I wouldn't be surprised if they managed to flip a player for profit. They've got a decent core of young players there. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see summer for Brighton, building on what's been a very strong season. Let's go on to Chelsea then. Chelsea 1, Liverpool 0. Could have saved it for the end, but we're going in alphabetical order now. Invincibles. It is confirmed. Chelsea, 22 games, 19 wins, 3 draws, 0 losses. Record-breaking season in terms of points as well. It's the biggest margin we've seen at the top of the WSL, I think, since its inception. Really impressive season from Chelsea.
Yeah, really good. Only ever Invincibles over a 22-game campaign. It was a phenomenal season, and again, this was a perfect demonstration as to why Chelsea are Invincibles, why Chelsea are champions, because in a game where it looked like they weren't going to win, it looked like it just wasn't going to happen. They played well, but it did it like they were going to drop points again, but they got the result. And how many times have we said that about Chelsea this season, where they've looked like they're not going to get the result, and then whether it's late on or whether it's through a bit of hard work, they push through and they get the result. And this game proved perfectly as to why they are champions. It was a performance that wasn't at 100%, but I do think that Chelsea did play defensively, going defensive to try and see out the invincible record against a good Liverpool side was what Sonia wanted to do, and it paid off massively. Beaver Jones, though, in added time against Liverpool once again this season, and Beaver Jones caps off what has been a brilliant individual campaign for her. But overall, Chelsea, brilliant season. Got the job done today, and can enjoy the title celebrations until this Sunday for the FA Cup final.
Well, they were very much enjoying it on the pitch after the game. I think we've seen this theme of the Chelsea celebrations post winning a title get more and more unhinged. I'm worried for the player safety if they go on to win another one next season. But really impressive campaign from Chelsea. Really impressive from Beaver Jones in particular, as you mentioned. That's 9 goals for the season for her. That's a really impressive tally. I think something that's gone under the radar, really gone unnoticed. So impressive from her. I thought the 3-5-2 didn't work at all. I thought Chelsea really struggled to create chances and create high quality chances. But it did allow them to dominate possession and allowed them to limit Liverpool to only 1 shot on target. So that was the game plan, and they nailed that. They got the win. They got the points over the line. An important one for Chelsea. Not a brilliant game of football, but the focus in this game was always going to be on the trophy lift.
Yeah, 100%. Chelsea went to the 3 back just to protect their invincible record, and I think the one positive was that Naomi Girma, probably her best game in a Chelsea shirt. She looked really comfortable in that back 3, and I don't think it's something we'll ever see Chelsea use again. I just think Sonia wanted to protect, wanted to claim that invincible. For Liverpool, that they weren't brilliant. I thought it was another quiet one for I don't think Smith had an incredible impact. I just think overall they didn't have much to fight for. It was all about Chelsea this game. They're at Stamford Bridge. They were going to lift the title. Everyone was in party mode, and Liverpool were kind of just the spectators for that. And as you say, it wasn't the greatest game of football. If the title race had gone down to the wire, I think it's been a really interesting game matchup, because Liverpool, it wouldn't have been as simple as Chelsea rock up and win. Liverpool would have made it difficult. So, but the fact there was not much on the line for either of these two sides, obviously Chelsea got their invincible record, but in terms of they kind of knew they were going to get that anyway, even with a draw, so it didn't matter too much. Both sides were just happy to see out their seasons. Liverpool has a lot of unknowns going into next year. Will it be Amber Whiteley in charge? Who will they still have? There's been no offers for Smith yet. They've offered Nagano a new contract, but she hasn't signed it yet.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of unknowns for Liverpool next season, so it's really hard to work out where they sit. But overall, not a bad campaign for the Reds, especially when you sack your manager to finish. I think they'll be disappointed to not finish top half, though. That'll be their bigger problem.
Yeah, but I think obviously with the way results have gone for them recently, it's been a bit messy. I think that's put into doubt the future, I think, of Amber Whiteley. If you were talking, a few weeks ago, a month ago, then I'd say she's nailed for the job next season. But I just think this patchy form at the end of the campaign has got to be a concern. I think for the board, they'll want to bring in someone they're confident will come in and do the
Yeah.
role to how they like. But yeah, I think their best bet is to take the gamble on Whiteley, give her the chance to build her side this summer, give her the season, and see what happens. I think Liverpool are, provided they keep Smith and players like her, I think relegation isn't really a serious threat. I think
No.
they should be fine. I know it is really tight though in the bottom half of that table, or well, anyone down from fifth really. But I think it's going to be interesting next season. I think with the right investment though, under Whiteley, this Liverpool side could look really strong.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes it pays off to take a gamble, and Whiteley may come out of something and look really strong because, as you say, as much as the form hasn't been good, there's been some brilliant results this season under Amber Whiteley, and I think if she was given the chance, then she could really make a good go of this Liverpool job and get them climbing up the table. As you say, they want to be associated with the likes of Brighton and Villa next season, not the likes of Tottenham and the ones who could be falling away at the bottom.
Yeah, indeed. The other question I think that this back three opens up for me is who should start as a centre back partnership for Chelsea next season?
That is a great question. That is I think if Gomez a £1 million player, if she's ready, she's ready, and I think she has to start. And then it's a debate whether you play Millie Bright or Natalie Bjorn.
Yeah, obviously there's enough games that everyone will get game
Yeah,
time,
exactly.
and once Khadijah Buchanan returns around November time, obviously that will be another one thrown into that rotation. But yeah, I think for me, Gomez got to be starting.
Yeah,
she's come to Chelsea
100%.
to be that starting centre half. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see what Chelsea look like next season. But there's very exciting stuff. Let's move on then to Everton 1, Tottenham 1. What what happened here? Why Everton didn't win this game? Neither side really seemed to be up for it.
Yeah,
It just sort of petered out into a 1-1 draw.
this result summed up these two seasons perfectly. Just a bit flat. It was the game was. Sari scored a free kick that for me shouldn't have gone in. That should it should have been saved really. And then Drew Spence scored a decent goal, and bar that, neither side did anything in the final third. It was a really slow game. I mean, the free kick was Everton's only shot on target, and that still shouldn't have gone in. And that really summed this game up. It was flat. I think it was disappointing seasons for both. Everton, to be fair, have shown some brilliant sparks. They did the double over their rivals Liverpool, so that's a positive. I think the signings are coming and done well. For Tottenham, such a poor campaign, and this game again, they just looked really flat. They didn't cause enough problems for Everton, and I think there's a lot of work to do for Tottenham next season, but obviously we'll break that down at some point. But overall, this campaign, this game from Tottenham, just not good enough. The standard hasn't been there. They haven't been at the level that you'd expect from the Tottenham side we saw last season under Villahan. They've dropped off massively, and you have to ask questions as to why that's happening. But Everton on paper should have won this game, but in the game they were terrible. I mean, it's a really hard one to talk about because both sides were really poor.
This wasn't a great watch, to be fair. I think with Tottenham, the equation's relatively simple in the fact that they lost Beasley and they lost Clinton this season, two players who were absolutely key to the style of play they wanted to play. They brought in Hayley Raso, who I think it's been quite apparent Robert Villahamn had no say in that transfer because he just doesn't seem to want to use her.
No.
And so I just think decisions like that are really weird. And it's left them in a situation now where I just don't really know where they go. I can't see how Robert Villahamn keeps his job. They're the second lowest side in the league this season. It wasn't for the fact that Crystal Palace just can't really compete at this level. They've been in serious trouble with relegation. I think looking at next season, if nothing changes managerial-wise or they don't, invest loads of money, which I just don't see happening, I think they are in serious trouble. Because I think, you look at the teams around them, and we've seen from the likes of West Ham and Everton some huge investment. I can't see anyone like Liverpool going down. Villa and Brighton, really promising stuff this season. And Leicester City are the only other team. And I think you throw around Tyler and Mouchon back into that side, and they look a lot more dangerous. And we'll get to Leicester in a moment, but they look really good in this game week. I think Tottenham are in serious trouble right now. And the summer, could change that for me. If Villaharm goes, if we see some serious investment, suddenly it's a different story. But if no one could change anything, I think Tottenham will be the ones in most trouble right now. I think they're more likely to lose their best players than sign any. I think Beth England could well move on. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a London City Lionesses signing. That just screams London City Lionesses. But yeah, I think there's some serious trouble at Tottenham right now.
Yeah, in football, with your squad, you need a healthy balance of experience and young, talented prospects. For Tottenham, they've just got this weird mix of experienced players who are at the level, experienced players who aren't at the level, some youngsters that they don't play, and then just a load of regular starters or squad players that, for me, just aren't up to scratch. I think the back four, no matter who they've used in that defence, hasn't been good enough this season.
It feels like just a squad of mercenaries.
Yeah.
There's no identity behind this Tottenham team. There's no thought process with who to sign. It's just based on names and that reputation. I don't think there's so much of a game plan here for Tottenham. I think that's a real problem. When you look at the professionalisation of recruitment across the rest of the clubs, and you look at Brighton and Villa signing these bargains, and Tottenham are still looking around for these high rep players, I just don't think it's really working. And then they do go out and they sign players from Sweden and countries like that. And Olivia Holt's barely got a look in this campaign. When she has come off the bench, she's looked really decent, but hasn't really been given those minutes. I don't really know what else to say about Tottenham. It's been a mess this season. I don't really see where they go from here. It needs a full squad rebuild, but is that going to happen quick enough? Is the big question, because they are working on borrowed time. I think every other side in the league has at least something promising. I don't look at anything in this Tottenham side and see it as particularly promising. Beth England's a brilliant player, but you can't afford to rely on her goals exclusively. Especially a player who is reaching the latter stages of her career now. I think it's a real worry for Tottenham.
Yeah, the instant fix is to play players in their position. Again, Olivia Holt started out on the right wing this game.
That would help.
Why? The amount of times we've seen Beth England out wide or we've seen Marta Thomas out wide, no idea. Just so many decisions and it's the basic decisions from Villa that he's got wrong. I can't think of a single Tottenham defender I can praise this season. They've been so poor at the back.
Ella Morrison's been too bad, but she's barely got a look in.
Yeah, because we've watched
Neville. Yeah, exactly. Instead we're watching Ash Neville, who just keeps giving away penalties, keeps giving the ball away.
Has broken the record for most penalties given away, or Tottenham as a football club have broken the record for most penalties given away in a season. They've given so many errors. The amount of handballs or stupid decisions that they've made as a team has and on and off the pitch has let them down massively.
It's just a back four players who there's such little belief there. There's such little confidence. It just needs to be disrupted. It needs to be changed. That's got to be the big thing this summer. They're just a completely different.
When was their last win?
You would be looking at Crystal Palace in January.
And they should have never won that football game.
And Leicester City in January. Their 2 wins this year were the 2 other sides in the bottom 3. And those wins both came in games they shouldn't have won. The Leicester City game, they didn't have a shot on target and they won the game 1-0. And the Crystal Palace game, Crystal Palace completely fell apart and handed that game to Tottenham.
Olivia Holt free kick in the 93rd minute.
That was the difference. They are the only wins they've claimed in 2025.
And without those 2 wins, they would have been level with Palace, because you take 6 off you take 6 off Tottenham and you give 3 to Palace because they should have beat Tottenham, and suddenly they're level on points Crystal Palace.
Been a point in it.
Was it
Palace
10?
on 13,
10, yeah.
Tottenham on 14. But I think if it was a point, I think Palace might have tried a bit harder. Or Villaharm would have lost his job. But I think Villaharm's. He'd be very lucky to see him in September.
I think he's gone. I really do.
Yeah, I think if he doesn't, there's a clear lack of ambition there, and neglect of the team, because it's been such a poor performance this season.
Agreed. Yeah.
So work needed for Tottenham. We'll see what happens over the summer. Let's move on then to Leicester City 4, West Ham 2. Why? I mean, West Ham have been in brilliant form lately. Leicester have been fine, but they haven't really won many games. But here we go, we'll just flip the script and it's 4-2 Leicester City. What happened here?
This was just a demonstration of final day madness. Let's all have a bit of fun, because, as you say, in-form West Ham turn up at Leicester and you expect the Hammers to get a good result and climb into the top half, and then Leicester turn up and score 4 goals when they haven't been able to score all season. I think Hannah Kane has put together a really good run of form towards the end of the season, scored a brace here.
I want to talk about her, because obviously she's out of contract this summer. Is she someone you think should be tied down to a new deal? I mean, it's only 3 goals this season, but if they were to keep her on as a rotation player, is that the worst thing?
I don't think so. I think she put a good run together. My problem is I didn't see her for 3 quarters of the season, and then she's turned up in the last couple of games and played really well. So I don't really know what to think on that regard. But yeah, I do think that it wouldn't hurt to have another squad player in an attacking area. For Leicester, it's been a disappointing year. It would have been good to end it on a big win against a good West Ham side, but they'll be thinking towards next year. They've had such a weird year yesterday, but
they've simply just not scored enough goals.
Yeah,
I think that's the easiest way to put it. I mean, 4 here. Without that, they'd have had the least goals scored this season, but still 21 goals in a campaign. It's way too low.
Yeah, you've got to score more than that. But I do think they did well in this game. They created some good chances. They played some really good football. And if it wasn't for a wonder goal from Asai, it would have been 4-1, and suddenly that looks much more convincing.
Why was Vivian Asai just hitting it from everywhere?
Yeah, I did. She just thought, I'm going to shoot. She just wanted to win goal of the season. I mean, the fact she didn't win goal of the season is a joke. But the amount of over the last couple of games, she's genuinely just gone, I want to win goal of the season. Scored a brilliant goal against Crystal Palace. It was just in the last match week. And then had a shot from about 30 yards out here and it got saved. Scored a brilliant free kick. Asai just wanted to win that award. But
9 goals in the WSL this season, 6 assists as well. Ridiculously strong season. I think if West Ham, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think if they could hold on to Asai and Martinez, what an incredible attack they have there. Yeah. I don't think they're going to keep hold of both of them though. But so that'll be interesting to see what happens this summer. But if they're equally, both of them have got decent contracts, so could see a fair bit of money in for West Ham there. But yeah, I think this was a game where West Ham's pivot got completely overrun.
Yeah, they missed
the back line. Yeah, there was no organisation there at all. The amount of times that you thought that Leicester City must be offside, but because they just walked through the team and looked like about 5 yards offside, but actually it was just really good. It was good timing, but really poor defensive. Organisation. The line wasn't in line, so yeah, really bizarre in that regard. But overall, just a mental game. Yeah. One of those.
Good promise from Leicester. They showed that they proved that they have got quality. We knew this all season. I think they were good defensively. Not much they could have done about the second Asai goal, and they were disappointed to concede. But overall, I thought they did well. And they'll be looking to push on next season and enjoy it. But overall, this was a really good game because it's final day, bit of fun, 6 goals. What more could you want?
Indeed, and 6 goals there, 7 goals in our last game. Manchester City 5, Crystal Palace 2. I think how you view this game and determine your thought on Man City's performance very much depends on the view from which you view it. I think, or the lens from which you view it. I think if you look at this game and an optimistic viewpoint, from a City perspective at least, you'd say, well, 5 goals scored here, lots of chances created, could have been a lot more, really emphatic attacking performance. But I think if you view it from a bit more of a pessimistic lens, they went behind twice against the bottom side in the league. They conceded twice anyway to the bottom side of the league. They missed a whole host of chances in this game. So I think City fans will rightfully celebrate the fact that they scored 5 goals here. But 5 goals from 31 shots, 17 of which were on target. That's an absurdly low number of goals. I mean, Palace just didn't show up here. 8 big chances, 5 missed. This could have been an absolute drubbing, but City just couldn't take their chances.
Yanez made some big saves, but I do not know where they put those other 12 shots on target that meant they didn't go in. This, for me, summed up...
Shea Yanez made 12 saves.
12 saves.
Conceded 5 goals.
I mean, that is... Talk about the difficult life of being a goalkeeper. This was a brilliant summary of both these side seasons, where Palace have shown a little bit of promise in attacking areas, but have been horrendous at the back. And for Man City, they've still got a brilliant front line. They've got loads of quality, but they get caught out in transition twice. They got caught on the ball twice and conceded from it. And it is all their goals this season. They just lose the ball in their own third and concede. And Gelia, I thought she played well. Obviously won the ball back and got the assist for the first one, and then scored the second, and it was a good game.
Shea Yanez, I just feel sorry for her.
How can you make 12 saves and concede 5? Poor guy. Just...
The back line was shocking. You know the phrase, like a hot knife through butter. It didn't even feel like that. There was no butter there. City just swinging a hot knife through the air. There's just nothing there.
They were terrible.
Palace defensively, not good enough this season. Showed a bit of promise in attacking areas, but ultimately it's not really been enough. and that's why they will be in the Championship again next season. I think if you're coming into WSL, the investment's got to be a bit stronger than it has been, and I think having a manager who wasn't experienced. Leif Smerid's come in and they've looked a bit better going forwards, but just their whole defence has fallen apart because of it. It's just been a really poor season for Crystal Palace, but I think they've covered themselves in glory in the sense they've come in and they've competed in some games, but I think a lot of them will admit to themselves they're probably not WSL quality players. You look at some of the players in the WSL now, and the quality they have, and some of the teams and the investment they have, and it's just night and day with what Palace have at their disposal. So I think the players themselves should be proud of the fight they've put up this season in some games, but ultimately it's just not been enough.
Yeah, I think Lee Smerid was the wrong appointment. I get that you need to sack Kaminsky, but Smerid came in and he tried to be too good in a sense. He tried to play football that was way not too advanced. They could understand it, but they didn't have the quality on the pitch to execute it because they looked good coming forward. But that's because the way they played meant that, but they just didn't have the defensive quality to deal with this with their own system, and that massively let them down. And I think Smerid, obviously, he has now left the club. If he gets a better job next season with a better team, then I do think he is a good manager and could do something good. But I just thought that in this game and across Smerid's reign, they've tried to be too offensive and they haven't got the quality at the back to be able to play that way.
Yeah. Speaking on City though, do you think Rebecca Knack could be a problem next season? She's averaging a goal every other game so far for Manchester City. Wow. Can anyone stop her at corners?
That is a good point because
she is just too tall. They cross the ball in and she's just there, and then it's in a second later.
Yeah,
we've seen it time and time again now. Manchester United, she's got 2 goals against this season, 2 goals against Palace as well. She's only played 8 times, but it's got to be worrying.
Yeah, it's one of those where if City aren't in the game and they put a corner in and that just stuns and it hits on the head and goes in, they could win the game. They can win games. I do think that could be a real force to be reckoned with. She'll probably come in and be that starting centre half as well now that Alexandri's left.
I mean, she put up 12 goals in the Damskarvesken in 2024.
She's actually going to score.
Is she going to win the Golden Boot next season?
New video coming tomorrow. Why Rebecca Knack will win the Golden Boot. It is worrying, but it's great for City. At least it's one thing they don't have to worry about because they've got a lot to worry about going into next season.
Well, if you scale her performance over a full campaign, just in terms of matches played, then she would have 11, which would put her 2 goals off the Golden Boot. And if you scaled up the minutes, she'd probably be closer to 12 or 13.
Yeah.
She might win the Golden Boot. We might have to deal with the fact Rebecca Knack is going to win the Golden Boot.
That is a reasonable statement. But yeah, City, I think it was a nice way to go out. Caroline showed her class. Lauren Hemp was back and was brilliant. Got an assist. Should have had a goal because her goal wasn't offside. City were really good going forward. Still need to work out how they defend when they have the football and how not to give it away and how not to get caught in transition. But once they bring in a manager, they should be able to do that. A lot of work for both sides.
With Knack and Khadija, sure, they might just score 5 every game.
They might.
They won't need to worry about defending.
They are going to be the biggest in the air. No side is going to beat them in the air. Just put Knack and Shaw there, and they're going to win every header.
Even players like Rord, they're not sure. Viviana Miedemar, it's just not fair, really, is it? Man City's just going to win every corner. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think with City, Cushing was clearly the wrong appointment. That's not really up for dispute.
Yeah,
I think that the most important sign this summer will be a new manager and actually who they can hold on to. If they keep this squad, they bring in a good manager. There's no reason why they couldn't finish 2nd, 3rd next season. I don't think they're really title contenders now.
Well, they're not in Europe though.
That is also true, and maybe a couple of big signings this summer, and that completely changes. But yeah, I think they are still those few signings away, and I do think they've got a big ask this summer to keep a lot of their players. Alexandra's already out the door. She's going to be a Barcelona player next season, which good for her. I don't really understand it from a Barcelona perspective. Losing Engin and grabbing Leah Alexandri, that feels like a downgrade for me, but that's Barcelona's issue. If they want to downgrade all their players, be my guest. We'll take Bonmati off your hands. But yeah, I think with City, there's a lot to do. But I think they're not in as dire a position as other clubs. They've just it's a couple signings and hold on to their best players and bring in a good manager, which admittedly sounds like a lot, but I don't think they're a million miles away from being right at the sharp end.
No, this was a nice way to end the season. I think it's what the fans needed. Few goals to see there, good players in action. But yeah, they haven't got to start ripping the foundations up.
Just a point off United, 5 points off Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's not bad at all. They're 17 points off Chelsea, but they've been a different breed this season. So, yeah, we'll see what happens next season. I don't think it's been too bad for Manchester City, but, finalists in a cup competition. Yeah, Europe's obviously the big loss, but we'll see what happens.
So that could help them next season.
That definitely could be beneficial for them. We saw them last campaign compete right at the sharp end. Chelsea probably should have won the WSL.
Yeah.
But largely because they didn't have Europe, it freed up their schedule so much. So maybe we'll see them do that again.
Maybe we will.
And that might be the promise that manages to keep Khadija Shaw and Lauren Hemp and Yui Hasegawa and everybody else happy, because they've got a lot of people to keep happy. Right, let's summarise. The WSL table, it's locked in, it's finished. Let's have a look at it. Top and the invincible champions, and we will have a video out about that soon. So if there are Chelsea fans screaming at us in the comment section, we will be talking about that soon. But top of the league, 60 points to their name, a plus 43 goal difference, only 13 conceded this season, 56 scored, 19 wins, 3 draws, 0 losses. Chelsea top of the league. Arsenal in second, then Champions League football confirmed for next season. They'll be entering in the third qualifying round, 12 points off Chelsea in the end, but still a strong campaign. In third, Manchester United, 44 points to their name. They did have the best defensive record in the league until they went and shipped 4 to Arsenal. Now they do not anymore, but they still did have Valentine's Joyce join Hannah Hampton in the Golden Glove, so they did well in that regard. Manchester City in fourth, only a point off United. Feels absurd given how their season has panned out, but no European football for them next season. Fifth place, Brighton managed that best of the rest spot, but I think given how strong their first half of the season was, it shouldn't have been as tight as it ended up. In sixth, Aston Villa, 25 points to their name. How on earth they've got here, we don't know. Don't question it. Just enjoy it. They finished on the same amount of points as Liverpool in seventh. Liverpool this season, an up and down campaign, but a decent reform in the last few months under Amber White, at least put them seventh. In eighth, the resurgence from Everton in the second half of this campaign by just signing loads of players in January has seen them up to 24 points. And a point ahead of another resurgent team in West Ham United, who, would have hoped to finish higher than ninth given their performances of late, but they do end up ninth in the table, 23 points. And again, a real high quality team there sat in ninth. Just shows the field spread, really, the quality across this league. 10th place, Leicester City. They've struggled in front of goal, but their acumen defensively has kept them in a lot of games this season. 20 points to their name. Joint on points with a very disappointing campaign for Tottenham Hotspur in 11th place. Second last in the league. Really disappointing stuff. And then bottom of the league, and will be joining the Championship next season, is Crystal Palace. Or should I say the WSL 2, because they're going backwards and renaming it, apparently. We'll see if that gets confirmed later today. Other than that, though, that is our WSL weekend review and the last one for the campaign. The next time we'll be back to review a WSL weekend will be September.
Wow.
So that...
Don't miss us.
well, we've got lots of videos. There's a lot happening this summer. You won't miss us. If anything, you'll be sick of us by the time the next WSL campaign comes round. But the next time we'll have one of these is September. So... well, if you only watch the WSL Weekend Review, see you then. If you watch the rest of our content, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about Chelsea. Unless the WSL announce something crazy. But we're expecting it not to be crazy. We'll see. That's everything. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thanks everyone that joined Harry on stream on Saturday as well. And a reminder, we'll be back in 2 weekends' time for the Champions League final. Nothing for the FA Cup final, because obviously we are at the game. If you are going to the game, come and find us. Other than that, though, that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.